Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. It's a story that has been heard a lot over the decades in First Nations, a house fire ending in death. Last month, the family lost their 10-year-old daughter due to fire protection inadequacies on the Weenusk First Nation in Northern Ontario. APTN's Annette Francis spoke with the young girl's mother.
JC, or Jolie Cora, was killed by a fire that swept through her home on January 28, 2023. She was just 10 years old.
Oh, she was a little bit shy. She liked to laugh. She loved her hugs, so we always hugged. There was hardly ever a day that we went without hugging and saying, I love you, the good nights. She wanted to be a teacher when she grew up. And she loved riding around in the Skidoo trails. She loved going for rides.
JC's mom, Jen Wabano, says that tragic night she had stepped outside to the garage for a few minutes. When she came back in, fire was already engulfing their home. All of her kids got out except for JC.
Tiana was still crying for her sister JC that was still in the room, and I went back in there and I couldn't even go beyond the kitchen island because that's how it was already so fast. Like there was already black smoke and I couldn't really see anything. There was really smoky and the pressure was a lot. Like the pressure, I couldn't go past that pressure. Like it was fire was just going like this, and I could see the floor.
With no firefighting resources in the community to put the fire out, Wabano flagged people down, but it was too late. 500 kilometers away in Moosonee, Randy Coda and his wife heard about the tragedy. They started a GoFundMe page and raised $50,000. He says something has to be done.
I'm a retired OPP sergeant, and I was at Kashechewan when the detachment burnt there, and 2 men died in the fire. And this isn't a today issue. This has been going on for years and years, where there's no fire protection for these communities. The government gives a fire truck and it sits in Winnipeg, but we don't have a firehouse. It's like putting the cart in front of the horse.
Just last week, another fatal fire in Northern Ontario on Peawanuk First Nation took 3 lives, including an 8-year-old child. Their remains were discovered over the weekend. In a statement sent out on Wednesday, the Anishinaabe Nation once again asked for something to be done. NAN submitted a 3-year proposal to Indigenous Services Canada in 2022 to continue the Amber Strange campaign's work to provide smoke detectors to all homes and educate members on fire safety. A verbal agreement from Indigenous Services Canada for 1 year of funding of the campaign was only received this week after 4 people have lost their lives in NAN First Nation communities in the past month. The Wabano family also wants action.
They need to ensure that these services are ready to go whenever there's, a fire erupts, like whenever a fire happens, and the equipment that's needed so that and the training that people need to, in case they have to run in the house, in case there's family members trapped in the house or still in the house. They should have that equipment. They should have the fire hall. They should have the fire truck.
According to Indigenous Services Canada, a fire truck will be delivered to Weenusk First Nation this month. It has sent emergency workers to Peawanuk and ensures the replacement of firefighting equipment in the community. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
The family of a woman who died after an assault in Opaipon and Ipuin Cree Nation says her death highlights the need for more resources in the community. APTN Sab Jonesa has that story.
47-year-old Noreen Tates died at a Winnipeg hospital after being airlifted from the nation also known as South Indian Lake after she was assaulted on February 19th. Emotions ran high as her family spoke at a recent news conference. Arla Tate says her sister's death has impacted everyone in the community, and this is just the latest blow.
There have been an increase in critical incidents of violence resulting in homicides and an alarming increase of domestic violence incidents. OPCN citizens are experiencing mental health crises, addictions, homelessness, food insecurity, inadequate health care, and a lack of access to safe drinking water.
The RCMP, along with major crime services and forensic identification services, are investigating Tate's death, but no arrest has been made. Chief Shirley Ducharme says to ease the grief, justice is needed. She also called for more resources in the remote fly-in nation, saying satellite services are not enough.
All these issues, problems stem from alcohol and drugs. Our community needs to heal in a healthy way.
Sab Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
To Thunder Bay now, where the Troubled Police Service is facing a new human rights complaint, which cites racism in the force and the healthcare system. APTN's Leanne Sanders reports.
John Semmerling filed the complaint with the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal on January 13, 2023. It names the acting chief, Dan Taddeo, a sergeant, and 3 constables. Semmerling is seeking financial compensation of $300,000 for employment losses, as he's been scared to leave the house. The complaint alleges that Semmerling was forcibly taken from his home by police after a friend called for a wellness check. Semmerling had lost his job, and the friend became concerned for him, according to the complaint. Lawyer Chantel Bryson says Semmerling initially agreed to go to the health center, but after waiting to see a doctor without success and seeing no sign of the officers, he started walking home.
All of a sudden, I believe it was 3 cruisers race up, 4 officers, none of which knew identify themselves, and one of them grabbed him and punched him in the face 4 times. They broke his nose and they severely injured. He had facial injuries. Even 2 weeks later when he came to see me, like, he was visibly bruised. He had concussion symptoms. He now has serious fear and anxiety of even leaving the house, of possible interactions with the police.
The official complaint lays out how the incident has affected Semmerling. Mr. Semmerling was an outgoing Indigenous community leader and deacon in the Roman Catholic Church. He has suffered physical and mental trauma as a result of the actions of the respondents, and now fears leaving his home and is easily triggered by the mere sight of the Thunder Bay Police Services officers or the Thunder Bay Health Sciences Centre. In response to APTN's request for a comment, a spokesperson for the service said in an emailed statement, "We have not seen the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario application that you are referring to, and therefore would not be able to provide comment." The complaint also names Dr. David Yee and the Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Centre for allegedly restraining Semmerling when he was brought back to the centre. A statement emailed to APTN says, "Due to privacy laws, we are unable to speak publicly on issues related to our patients, staff, physicians, or volunteers. What we can say is the Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Centre is committed to providing safe, quality, and respectful care to all the diverse populations we serve." Bryson says Semmerling eventually met with a social worker and was released. She says they're willing to have the matter resolved through mediation, as it could be years before the complaint makes it to a hearing due to what she calls a crisis in Ontario's tribunal system. Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Canada and Métis political organizations have put pen to paper on what is being hailed as historic agreements. That story more still to come. Welcome back. On Tuesday, the Weenusk Chiefs announced a partnership with a large forestry company in New Brunswick. It happened despite the company being named in a lawsuit over First Nations title to a large chunk of the province. The Chiefs say the agreement is one step towards a settlement. Angel Moore reports.
It is clear signal that what we are asking of companies, of Crown corporations, and of the provincial government is not unreasonable.
Chief Alan Polchis of Zdunsig, St. Mary's First Nation, is talking about reclaiming traditional lands, and it's why the Weenusk Nation announced a memorandum of understanding with a foreign-based forestry company. AV Group of New Brunswick's parent company is based in India. It employs over 15,000 people in New Brunswick and manages about 750,000 hectares of woodlands. Chief Patricia Bernard hopes the agreement changes the way business is done in New Brunswick.
Not only to other forestry companies, but to all other companies who wish to sort of do business within this province. It isn't just the provincial crown you have to sort of build a relationship with. It's the original inhabitants of this land.
The agreement includes forestry management, including Indigenous knowledge, economic opportunities, and a transfer of private land currently held by the AV Group. Government Relations Director Mike Legier says it's unclear how much land they will return to the Weenusk Nation.
The portions that will be given back depends on the results of the engagement with the communities. What are the cultural sensitive sites that they feel are important to them? So we don't have a number yet on that.
Meanwhile, AV Group is one of 6 forestry companies named in a lawsuit filed by the Weenusk chiefs in 2021, seeking Aboriginal title to their traditional territory. Chief Ross Purley of Nugudkuk, Peawanuk First Nation, says the MOU does not change the lawsuit.
It remains true that AV Group is a defendant of the latest version of the title claim that the Weenusk chiefs filed in November of 2021. This MOU is a step towards resolving some of the allegations the chiefs have made in that claim. This is a company that has shown its willingness to work in partnership with our nation.
The province and New Brunswick Power are also named in the suit. Alicia Bartlett, spokesperson for Aboriginal Affairs, had this to say about the MOU in an emailed statement. The province supports private companies working in partnership with First Nations, including the AV Group's interest in partnering and developing a more formal relationship with the Weenusk. Bernard hopes the MOU will lead to a settlement.
I mean, negotiation is always better than litigation. It's just it takes 2 people willing to sit down to negotiate these things, and there has to be some reconciliation. There has to be acknowledgement.
The chiefs say they are not in talks with any other forestry companies, but would welcome discussions. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Fredericton, New Brunswick.
The Metis Nation of Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta have signed agreements that gives those political organizations recognition by the Crown as Métis governments. APTN's Chris Stewart has that story.
The Metis Nation of Alberta signed an agreement with Federal Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations Mark Miller that was decades in the making. Since the 1960s, the MNA has fought to have its voice recognized federally and provincially as a Métis government. And the signing today makes it official, and they are not alone. The Métis Nation of Saskatchewan and the Métis Nation of Ontario also signed agreements today acknowledging them as a Métis government as well. MNA President Audrey Portra told APTN that the signing has been long overdue.
And I remember, as a much younger person, people being very excited. This was going to change our world. This was finally going to get the recognition we deserved. And we all know it didn't happen. There was some little pieces that happened, but our people never gave up. They kept pushing forward because we believed in who we were as a nation of people. And so we've seen it from no recognition to this today actually being fully recognized as the government for the Métis people within Alberta.
Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Mark Miller says today will be a day to be remembered.
This is a big day for them in many ways, and I think look forward to many more as we move on with some. And we can't hide the fact that there is unfinished business left, and we'll continue to be working with them. So this is an important day, first and foremost, for about 16,000 Métis citizens in Alberta.
The Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta Métis Nations gives them jurisdiction on memberships, elections, administration, housing, child welfare, and governance on a nation-to-nation, government-to-government basis. Minister Miller says the legislation will soon be coming to implement the agreement.
We have to keep our eye on the ball on this one. There is still a process where we have to introduce some legislation. We're hoping to get that done in the spring session of Parliament and hopefully passed. We don't, in a minority government, predetermine that process. And then some really important issues in and around land claims policies, making sure that we're moving towards a core governance treaty that will continue to really build on this relationship.
The agreement says that negotiations will continue to implement a core self-government treaty in the next 2 years.
We've come a long way, and today is a great day to sign our self-government agreement. It is amazing, and it's all happened in the last while. You know, for many years we took a few steps forward and a few steps back, and over the last 5 to 6 years we have made amazing steps forward.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
2 Cree cousins are set to show off their strength at a major competition in the U.S. That story and more still to come. Welcome back. 2 Cree cousins from Whitefish Lake First Nation in Alberta are in Columbus, Ohio. They're getting prepared for the 2023 Arnold Classic Strongman and Strongwoman competition. APTN's Chris Stewart spoke to the pair as they get ready to compete.
Once I get into that gym, everything makes sense.
Angie Houle and her cousin Colton Sloan are getting in the final workouts before the biggest competition of their lives. The two will be facing competition from the best competitors all around the world in the Strongman and Strongwoman events at the 2023 Arnold Classic, owned by famous bodybuilder and actor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Angie has only been competitively training for 2 years with Colton after raising 4 kids. She says she was always strong, even as a youth.
Like, I used to haul freaking moose out of the bush and deer and cut wood and haul the boat, haul the nets. So it just became like it's like normal.
Colton has been training for 5 years, and both have already made the record books.
So Stones is definitely my favorite right now. And then other than that, I really like front carries. Like, I actually broke a world record in the Husafell stone in Iceland. I competed in Iceland in November. I broke a world record in that. And that was really fun. So I really like front carries and stones. I just like stones.
I have a national record for my amateur last year for presses, axle presses. So I'm actually really good at it.
Both Houle and Sloan earned their pro cards in Canada, becoming the first Indigenous people to turn pro. And they get one final chance to compete as an amateur at the Arnold Classic.
The major prize in my eye in Strongman is the Arnold Classic Pro Strongman. So if I win this one, the amateur side of it, I get to go to compete with the pros in that side, which is where I want to go. That's my ultimate goal. You know, winning World Strongman's great, but winning the Arnold Classic Strongman is everything to me.
Angie says she still can't believe she made it to what is considered one of, if not the biggest, strongman competition in the world.
I was like, I can't believe this is real. I can't believe we're here. We made it this far. So, you know, we're representing Canada. We're representing like our Indigenous background. We're our Indigenous people. You know, if we can do it, everybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Yep. And I would love to see more Indigenous people in this sport.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
I can do that. Best of luck to them both. Hope we hear how they did next week. The New Zealand All Blacks rugby team is in Vancouver for a series of international games. And as Tina House reports, they made a special visit to a small First Nations community for their upcoming games this weekend.
On the field, New Zealand All Blacks are known as tough competitors and always performing their Haka warrior dance to thousands gathered in stadiums to come see them play. But today, they're being welcomed with a traditional song by members of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation in North Vancouver. About 100 community members, including kids, were anxious to get autographs and meet them, including 16-year-old Isaiah Susadik, who currently plays rugby and hopes to make it to a professional team one day.
I feel like today is just a great honor to meet some of my biggest idols, and yeah, like I can't wait to see what happens in the future here, and I'll be going for the national team.
For Chief Jen Thomas, she says she's so proud that her community gets to host the team today.
I'm just happy we got the All Blacks here. You know, they're one of the most popular teams, and I know a lot of our community members were happy.
And just what does it take to be on a professional team like the All Blacks?
If you're going to do the hard work when no one's looking, like I guess it'll just pay off on the field, and just enjoy playing with your friends and family, I guess, and in some cases, yeah, and just go hard.
Ever think that one day you'd be an All Black?
I think the dream was definitely there when you're young, but like I think, yeah, I don't know. No, definitely not. I didn't think I'd actually get there, but it's always a dream of every New Zealand, well, most of the New Zealand boys. So it's pretty cool to finally put on the black jersey and haven't looked back since.
For Ngari Black, he says it's always an honor for the team to come to Canada.
Koenei mātou te whakatina nei wēnei āhuatanga o tātou, no reira, ai. Kia ora. Yeah, pretty much just wanted to thank the people here, and just similar, how similar we are, Māori and natives of this country. I spoke earlier about how in my culture we live off the land, we live off the water, and hearing the same things from your guys in was pretty good, just to make those type of connection.
And for 3-year-old Brooklyn George, the visit has inspired a new dream.
What's it like meeting the All Blacks today?
Great.
Do you want to grow up to be a rugby player?
Yes.
The visit concluded with the All Blacks singing a song for the community. And this weekend, they play in the Rugby Sevens World Series in Vancouver.
We got the win in LA last week, so just to come here, it's just, trying to win back-to-back and, just win the World Series is our goal. So.
Tina House, APTN National News, North Vancouver.
Cute little future rugby player there. Well, that's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this weekend. For news anytime, you can always visit our website. That's aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. We leave you now with some of the sights and sounds from the Yellowknife Snow King Winter Festival. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Hello and welcome. Bonjour tout le monde. Bienvenue.